kind of a bridge Sunday, referring back to some of the things at the very end of the last cycle of readings, the last part of the liturgical year, especially thinking about Christ's second coming. And Advent has got two responsibilities. And the first Sunday in particular to remind us of the second coming of Christ. And the rest of the season to prepare us for remembering Christ's first coming. But we know that even though we prepare to celebrate Christ's first coming as well as looking forward to his second coming, the truth is that he is with us now. And so because he is with us now, we need to continue to reflect on what our response is to his presence with us in the here and now. I'm going to share this with you from H. King Omeg. We are more than a little unsettled about this last coming of Christ when he comes to judge the quick and the dead at the end of time in history as we know it. Why shouldn't we be? If Michelangelo's depiction of the event in the Sistine Chapel is anything like what is to come, we will see an angry Jesus separating the sheep from the goats with the intensity of a ghostly Conan the Barbarian. But as theologian Karl Barth says, in the Bible, the judge is not primarily one who rewards some and punishes others. He is the one who creates order and restores what has been destroyed. So Jesus the judge, the Jesus of the second coming, will arrive as the restorer of a fallen world in which evil is destroyed and the reign of love is ushered in once and for all. It won't be a coming of wrath, a coming against. It will be, on the other hand, a coming for. It isn't a message of doomsday, but rather a message of hope. The light will overcome the darkness once and for all. Suffering and sadness, disease and death will be no more. The struggle for justice will be over. At long last, every knee will bend and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord to the glory of God the Father. The only thing that life will consist of after this coming will be endless praise and eternal gratitude. The Christ who is among us and continues to call us to be faithful is the one that Paul is referring to in the second lesson today. Because Paul, after all, is reminding the Christians in Rome about how their conduct had to be different from the people around them who did not believe, who didn't profess any faith in Christ, who continued to follow on their pagan way. And that's because they had to embrace a whole different way of life, and they were the minority in the midst of a great majority of pagans. They had all too much influence on that small Roman community, that pagan community around them, plus the laws that militated against what they were doing. And so it was only too easy for them to fall back, to go back and practice all of those things that Paul talks about as being things that get done at night, in the nighttime. As Bishop N.T. Wright says, it might have been nocturnal activity in Rome, but you can be angry and practice licentiousness any time of the day, anywhere. Any of us is capable of being a divided personality when it comes to our faith. That we can be, on the one hand, very observant, regularly coming to church, receiving communion, accepting the absolution, making sure that we take our place within the parish, whether we serve in the vestry or we do something else, or our pledge, or whatever it might be. We do all those things, but later on, we become a different person. We're always irascible. We are disagreeing with people. We call people by name. We ridicule them. We insult them. Usually not to their face, of course, behind their back. We can practice all kinds of different behavior that has nothing to do with that goes on within these four walls. And Paul is telling the Romans they can't live like that. They especially, who had so much pressure brought to bear on them, had to give the contrary example, because Christ was in their midst in the here and now, not just coming later on, and not just something that they should be ready for. And not just thinking about what had happened however many years, 20, 30 years before Paul writes to the Romans, but in the here and now. What's the response? What is the way we must live now? Maybe we could see it as, what gift can we possibly give to the Christ child when we come to Christmas? What gift can we give? I have some suggestions here from the Word Among Us. Set aside an hour each week just to sit and be quiet in the presence of the Lord. You can come to church to do that. You can go to any church to do that. You can take time at home to just be quiet, sit in a corner somewhere. Lock yourself in the room. Lock yourself in the bathroom. I don't know. Wherever you can be private and quiet and be still and know that God is God. In the quiet of God's presence, praise and thank Him for becoming one of us in everything except for sin, and saving you from sin and death. Serve the needy in some way. Volunteer. Hesed House is always continuing to look for volunteers. Lazarus House as well. The food pantry here in town. And there are other groups that are around that are always looking for volunteers. The hospitals, hospices, always looking for people who want to do something for somebody else, not because they're going to get paid for it, but because they want to do it as a sign of their dedication and their desire to serve, particularly to serve Christ and the people that are in need. You can buy gifts for a struggling family. You can bring toys for the Batavia Access Toy Drive. Or if you live near someone who likes to decorate but has a hard time because of their age, help them decorate their house. And when you realize that you've strayed, make sure that you are sincerely prepared for the general confession during the Eucharist. Don't just let your mind wander in those few minutes of silence before we confess. Or be really radical and look at page 447 in the prayer book and consider making a private confession sometime during Advent. Is there anyone you need to forgive? Ask Jesus to help you forgive that person and then reconcile with him or her if it's possible. And as you decide what you will give Jesus, remember it's not only about what you do to get ready for his coming. It's also about what Jesus wants to do for you, for me, for all of us. As you sit quietly in his presence, the Lord wants you to know peace. When you reach out to the needy or to help someone that's in any kind of need, the Lord wants to encounter you in his beloved poor. As you confess your sins, either in general confession or privately, the Lord wants to fill you with his mercy. And as you forgive other people, he wants to help heal your wounded relationships. Jesus is so generous that he wants to help you get ready for him. So as antithetical to the season that it is, slow down even just a little bit, and then give him the gift of your willing heart. So Jesus, we long for your coming. Help us to get ready.